quarter of a mile, slight right onto Causeway, A312.
Liberace had a piano-shaped swimming pool. He had a centrally heated lawn. Just those little, his possessions he called Happy Happies. He had a piano made of 10,000 matchsticks, a sort of miniature piano. There are classic obituaries of sort of big, eccentric...
Take the next right onto Causeway, A312.
The fun of them is deadpan, writing completely straight about it, so not trying to push the comedy, but just writing, telling the story straight, and it's that kind of sort of tone.
Continue on A312 for 1 mile.
Funnier if something is absurd, then it kind of points up the absurdity. But one thing I would also say is that if you're talking about a person that you knew, sometimes you just want to be honest and straight and remember the bits of their lives, little fragments, and put them all together and not worry too much about high writing, fine writing, or whatever. And actually our obituaries are written in quite a simple way, quite a factual, detached sort of way. And I don't think you need to be too high-flown about it. You just want to be truthful.
What would be in Andrew Brown's obituary?
Well, I was thinking as I was waiting, looking at myself on the monitor, there would definitely be something about my preoccupation with how chubby I'm looking, and on camera putting 10 pounds. I mean, yeah, but I would like it to say that I was kind, something like that. I would not want my darkest secret to, in fact, I really wouldn't want an obituary at all. I would just like my friends to gather and remember me. I'm not the kind of person, and we have to say to people, families ring us up and they suggest a family member who might have unlimited gongs, letters after their names, but if it's not a good story, we have to say we just don't have space to do everyone. It's about having a good story for us.
Thanks, Andrew. And I will leave you with a joke Barry Cryer told a lot in his later years. I'm so old, I'm not buying green bananas.
Yeah.
Exactly. Andrew, thanks so much. That's Andrew Brown, obituaries editor at The Telegraph. Let's hear from Kasia. Hi, Kasia, how are you?
Hi there, Eddie. I'm alright. How are you?
I'm good. What do you want to do? Who do you want to tell me about?
I wanted to actually share a story about my granddad, who passed away a few years back. He fought during the Second World War. He was part of the Polish unit that was attached to the Russian army when they took Berlin. And his story is that he was a soldier in a reconnaissance unit. They were typically very small, and they were sent behind enemy lines to find out the position of artillery units. And he was caught up in a street fight with German tanks in Tiergarten. He was on his own, and his job was to feed back to his unit about the position of the tanks so they could be, tackled. But his unit was getting shelled, and he decided, against commanding officer's orders, to actually blow up the tanks rather than go back to his unit. It was really risky. He was putting his life completely on the line, but he blew them up with grenades. And when
In 300 yards, at Wagoners Roundabout, take the second exit onto the Parkway, A312.
I can do two things. I can either send you to be court-martialed, which would have been, well, normally would have happened if, just obeyed direct orders, or I can give you a medal. And that's what he did. He gave him a medal. He gave him the highest Polish medal received in combat, which is called military virtue, Virtute Militari. And receiving that medal had shaped basically the rest of his life.
How did he tell you the story?
I asked him. As a kid, growing up, I did actually ask him, how did you get your medal? And he told me this story, and it is quite terrifying.
And the medal was life-changing for him?
It was life-changing. The order of Virtute Militari, they're basically dying out. The people that have this order, there are not that many left of them because you can only receive it in active combat. I would suppose the equivalent over here would be, medals received, I think George's Cross or Victoria Cross received for courage from, military field.
Okay, so what was your granddad's name?
Tadeusz Kowalski.
Great to hear from you, Kasia. Thank you so much. Tell me about your loved one, someone who meant something to you. Why do you remember them? They don't have to have won a medal, If they meant something to you and you've got something to say about them, get in touch. 0345 6060 973.
Exit the roundabout onto the Parkway.
Boris Johnson has suggested
Continue on the Parkway for 1 mile.
cost of living as he revealed plans to fill 500,000 vacancies. The government has announced plans to withdraw support for job seekers if they don't widen their search after 4 weeks rather than 3 months. A man's admitted killing his girlfriend's 18-month-old son, who died in hospital 13 days after he'd been looking after him. Andrew Corcus suffered a head injury in July 2019 while in his dad's care. And a 24-year-old man has been jailed for 8 weeks for harassing England's chief medical officer. Jonathan Chew approached Professor Sir Chris Whitty in St James's Park in central London in June last year.
LBC Business Update.
With Direct Line Landlord Insurance. Come direct for landlord insurance.
The world's biggest spirit company, Diageo, says it's enjoyed growth in sales thanks to the reopening of pubs and bars in the UK and Ireland. Vodka, Baileys and rum all did well, with Guinness sales jumping by 30% thanks to coronavirus restrictions lifting. LBC weather clear for most of the UK tonight. A few showers for the Northern Isles, a low of freezing.
This is LBC.
In a quarter of a mile, at Cranford Parkway interchange, take the second exit onto the M4 slip road to Heathrow Airport, M25. Exit the roundabout onto the slip road. In a quarter of a mile, merge onto M4. Continue on M4 for 3 miles.
First spot was done by Bob Monkhouse, second by Barry Cryer. The final speech was by the groom, my friend Mark. It was a tough gig. This from Vanessa. Listening to your programme now on the second anniversary of my grandfather's passing. He was my best friend and father figure, and I'm still struggling. He was extremely poor in Madeira and came to London in 1973 with my grandmother and 8 children. He worked his way up, becoming very successful and resilient despite the many health issues he faced. He shaped me to who I am today and inspires me to never give up. Here's Sarah in Bude. Hi, Sarah.
Hi. I was married to the craziest, funniest husband anybody could wish for. He was called Barry as well, and his first claim to fame was when he made the Bishop of London fall asleep on the settee. He's come to visit our house in Cornwall. He just sort of turned up with a visit one afternoon, and I served him a Cornish green tea, and he lit his pipe, and he sat on his settee, and then my husband started telling him all the jokes. And within 5 minutes, he was snoring his head off. The bishop, not my husband. That was really funny, but the funniest bit I can remember, we've talked about it for years, is when we climbed up a rock in Cornwall called Logan's Rock. Now, it's the highest rock, and it's so jagged. And we found a little pathway up the side and climbed this massive rock. And we got to the top, and we realised we couldn't go back down because the sea was swirling all around us, and we had a 4-foot jump to the mainland with the waves coming out halfway up the side of the rock. And he was 6'4", so he's got long legs. So he said, look, I'll jump, get to the mainland, then you jump. Well, I'm only 5 foot. He jumped, and then all of a sudden, after about 5 minutes persuading me, I actually jumped because the waves were coming even higher. And we got to the other side, and all of a sudden, these people came up the top of the rock with bobble hats on, guidelines, hammers, and the look on their faces when they said, how did you get up here? Oh, so we just walked. Well, how did you get over there? Well, we just jumped. They just couldn't believe it. I mean, we did the craziest things.
What was your husband's name, Sarah?
He was called Barry.
Oh, you told me. Sorry, forgive me, Barry.
They're all the same. But he was romantic as well, because he hired a private little plane to fly me from St. Just to down to Sydney.
In a quarter of a mile, keep right to stay on M4.
And we watched the dolphins jumping in the sea. Gorgeous. I was very lucky to be married to such a gorgeous man.
For how long have you been without Barry?
A year, but it wasn't through COVID. He's not been caught. We met when I was 15, he was 17, and then we were married.
Keep right to stay on M4.
That's nice to hear about
him. About in a happy way.
Exactly, that's what we're trying to do, Sarah. Nice to hear from you. Now, let's hear from Max in Bolingbroke. Max, hi.
Hello.
What do you want to tell me?
My grandfather passed away last year from dementia, and his name was Morris, and the funny story that I have about him was basically I never ever saw him cook. My grandmother always cooked meals whenever we went round, and I said to him, Grandpa, do you know what to cook? Do you know any meals? And he didn't cook anything, couldn't boil an egg. And the story he told me was about his father during the Second World War, and during the Blitz, him and his brother and his mum got evacuated to Leeds, and so his father, my great-grandfather, had to be in the house and looked after the house, made sure everything was, safe, and he missed his family so much, and he couldn't cook, that they had to all come back during the Blitz. He couldn't boil an egg. So that's a fond memory I have of my grandfather, and we all missed him dearly during the first lockdown. He passed away, so we couldn't go and see him, and because of there's a connection, between us missing him and he was missed by his father, so they had to all get back to their home during the Blitz.
Max, good to hear from you. This text says, my poor departed wife, Eddie, when we met, we went to a restaurant. She had a conversation with the waitress. What vegetarian meals have you got? I was a bit disappointed, thinking I was going out with a vegan. Anyway, after about 10 minutes of exchanges about what could be made vegetarian, she came up with, no, I don't fancy any of that. Tell you what, I'll have a burger. I was hooked from that point. I was laughing so
In a
much.
quarter of a mile, keep right to stay on M4.
But Linda O'Keefe, that will always be ingrained in my memory of you. R.I.P. 20th of July 2020. Here's Phil in Kingston. Phil, who do you remember? Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Phil. Who do you remember?
Hi, Eddie. Yeah, well, mainly I'm thinking about my mum.
Keep right to stay on M4.
And I promised her at her funeral that I would get everybody to stand up, give her a round.
Continue on M4 for 4 miles.
Smoked until that day, you know. I said, well, you've never given up smoking until you've actually got in your box, you know. So I said, I'll make everybody give you a round of applause, and they did. You know, but my family's very. We like to put a smile on people's faces, and I like Barry Cryer very much. And one of her best friends actually, as the curtains closed in the crematorium, she wanted Feeling Hot, Hot, Hot played. There's a lot of song, which was very nice, and you know, it brought a smile to everybody's face. And my uncle, her brother, my mum's brother, youngest brother, actually wrote a book because he was dying of cancer, and he wrote a book called A Man Who Gave Birth, because his cancer was growing like a melon, and they took it out. But you know, they all just seem to get on with it. It's part of life.
But your mum finally stopped smoking because she died.
She did. Well, as far as, yeah, I mean, she stopped when I was 10, and I'm 56 now, and she died this year. So obviously she stopped a long time ago, and I said, well, until you're in your box, then obviously you haven't completed it. I mean, there's the old joke of, you know, I can give up smoking. I gave that up many times, you know, 50 times.
Phil, great to hear from you. Thank you. Here's Jenny in County Louth. Hi, Jenny.
Hi, Eddie. It's lovely to speak to you. I love your programme.
Who do you want to talk about?
May I tell you about my mother?
Sure.
Her name was Betty Ross, and she was just a lovely woman. Now, she was a terrible housekeeper and a worse cook, but she was really, really kind. And a peculiarity about Mammy that we're really only appreciating now that she isn't with us anymore is that she couldn't see where the lines were in the world, couldn't see where the problems were, could only see solutions. And I have a lovely example of that. She went into Dublin town to get whatever, and on her way back she met a boy, I think he was 14 or 15, sitting on the bridge begging for change. So she said, come on out of that, come home. Brought him home, landed him on top of Daddy, sent Daddy off to get an extra bunk bed for the boys' room, marched down to the school to enroll him, where the Christian brothers were like, you know, Betty, you can't do that, you can't just land home with a boy.
In 2 miles, at junction 6, take the A355 exit to Slough Central.
Almost 2 years, and the last I heard is that she's living in Australia and he is an accountant.
Good grief.
I know, she did many things like that. She hated cats, but forever had kittens. Anything that crossed her path, she fully considered that God had put them there for her to deal with.
And how much of this is rubbed off on you, Jenny? How much are you like her?
Oh, I daren't put you to my husband. He'd say, I'm a nightmare to live with. And she tried poor Daddy, but he worshipped her. And there's a hole in the world could never be filled now with my mum and my dad gone. I have to say.
Jenny, it's very good to hear from you too. So what about you? A sort of obituary for someone you miss. 0345 6060 973. Eddie, my nan passed away on Saturday. I used to ring her most days and find out what she had for lunch and was planning for tea, what was on the telly, and what she'd seen the neighbours get up to through the window. Since she died, I go to ring her, momentarily forgetting she can't answer anymore. I feel sad for a while and then recall all the conversations we had. I break into a smile and know that she wouldn't want anyone to be glum. In any case, she nearly always had a corned beef or ham sandwich for lunch, so even though I can't ask her, I know what the answer would be. That's from Jordan in Cornwall. You can text 84850 and call 0345 6060 973. At 6:45, here's Amelia Cox with the headlines.
Boris Johnson has suggested a shortage in workers is fueling the cost of living crisis as he's announced plans to fill 500,000 vacancies. A 24-year-old man has been jailed for 8 weeks for harassing Professor Sir Chris Whitty as he walked through a park last June. And comedian Barry Cryer has been described as one of comedy's greats following his death aged 86. LBC weather clear for most of the UK tonight. A few showers for the Northern Isles, a low of freezing.
LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff. It's very slow on the A1M northbound because of an accident that's now on the hard shoulder between...
In a quarter of a mile, at junction 6, take the A355 exit to Slough Central.
There's a lane closed in both directions at the Kenning Hall interchange because of 2 separate breakdowns. It's slow in Ealing. The Mall is partly blocked both ways because of an accident near the Common. In Witton, it's slow on the A316 Twickenham Road going out...
Exit at junction 6.
Because of an obstruction on the road between the Hospital Bridge roundabout and Apex Corner. And on the underground, Stockwell Station on the Northern and Victoria line is closed.
In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, take the 3rd exit onto Tons Lane, A355.
Coming up at 7 on LBC, Ian Dale.
We have more job vacancies in this country than ever before. The government says if you don't get a job within 4 weeks, we're going to dock your benefits. Are they right?
Ian Dale on LBC.
New year, new Tesco mobile deals in our January sale, powered by Clubcard Prices. Get incredible deals this month and join an award-winning network. Not bad for a supermarket. This is Supermarket Mobile. Pop in or search Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Event ends 31st of January. Individual offer end dates may vary, subject to availability. Clubcard credit and usage agreements may be required. Terms at tescomobile.com/terms, which you to...
Exit the roundabout onto Tons Lane. In a quarter of a mile, slight left towards Sippenham Lane. Slight left towards Sippenham Lane. Continue for 1.5 miles.
tribute said in a world of fakery, he was the real deal. John is in Cumbria. Hi, John. Who do you want to tell me about?
Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm good.
I want to talk about a fella called Stevie Grandad.
Stevie Grandad?
Yes.
Crazy name, crazy guy?
Steve Adams.
Right.
And he was a musician. I played in a band with Stevie for several years out of Scarborough and then Leeds later. And he played with another couple of groups afterwards who did quite well, one called the Land Speed Loungers, who were quite a successful group. And Stevie died last year, and he was with his family in Barcelona, so obviously we couldn't see him. And you kind of caught us at the right time, really, man, because he's very much in our minds, in that there is a piece of work, a film that's been made about the group, and so we have gradually been getting together again and talking about Stevie and thinking about him. And obviously sometimes it's very difficult because we didn't get a chance to kind of properly say goodbye to him, be on Zoom, all that kind of thing. But I think it has emerged that he was at the centre of quite an enormous family of musicians, and artists, some of whom knew each other, some of whom didn't, some of whom played with each other on a period of time out of that kind of local pool of musicians that you get in small towns. And again, much like people were saying about Barry